Three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Welcome along to a Mindful Leadership podcast. Today, as always, I have my dear friend Natasha Rocha and our
Hello.
special guest, Pamela McGroarty, if I'm pronouncing your second name right, Pamela.
Hello, yes, you are.
Yay, I got one right. Um, and I'd like to introduce Pamela and then ask her to share a bit more about herself. So, thank you for sending on the bio, Pamela. And you've said that Pamela has worked as a care worker for 32 years. Congratulations. And through a period of poor mental health, she went on a growth journey, which led her to start her own small holistic business. Yay. And she is passionate in helping others to offer hope and give out the message that change is possible. That's fabulous. Thank you, Pamela. Would you like to share a bit more about yourself, please?
Well, as you said, I've been a care worker for over 30 years. I did actually start a growth journey in my 30s. I did a certificate in counselling skills. I wanted to be a counsellor, but through fear, it really kind of held me back from continuing on. The tutor I let put me off as well. So I just stayed where I was. But it came to me in the menopause where I had one or two periods of poor mental health over the years, more anxiety for me than depression, both were there. But it ended up that when I hit the menopause, I thought, what have I done in my life? Where am I going? What am I doing? And I realised I felt very unfulfilled. So that led me to say, right, what do I want to do? And I thought I'd always been meant to do more than I had. So that led me to first learn self-Reiki, EFT, and then went on to learn how to do it in other people. And I'm also doing further learning. I'm learning NLP just now, and I'm thinking of possibly life coaching or some other form of thing to help people. And I'm really enjoying the journey.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for sharing your journey. And I just want to acknowledge as well, like, not only have you self-discovered a lot of your own health problems, but then you've clearly taken a lot of action since you've been experiencing them. I was interested in your experiences and in anxiety and also like the perimenopause and menopause. I know for although I don't personally go through it, my a lot of my clients do and are and have come through on the other side of that. And I was interested in your experiences of how was the anxiety. Would you give any advice for people that are struggling with that?
I think it can be different for different people, but for me, it was more the anxiety that was a problem. But I think that stemmed from me from the past, experiences, childhood experiences. I'd experienced a bit of bullying at secondary school and things. So I think in later life that came up for me that I hadn't fully addressed it or looked at it. For me, I've found anxiety is often caused by other problems underlying, that you're not happy in some way, that it could be something from the past that's affecting you. It's not always that. But I think it's, for me, it was really learning to relax again. Mm-hmm. Everything's very, very fast paced when you've got anxiety. So I was learning different techniques. Reiki helped me, EFT. Meditation is very important for me, to meditate regularly. Also exercise was important. Journaling, walking, even just steeping my feet in a basin of water, things like that. Just to really start to care for myself, because I realised I'd always put others before myself. I didn't do enough self-care, and that had really been the problem. How I'd hit kind of burnout a few times because I just was focusing on what others needed, what I thought I should do instead of what I really wanted to do. So that was really the turnaround for me, realising, right, I've got a right to live my life in a happy way. I need to make change, and I did.
That's beautiful. And it takes a lot of courage to do that, to kind of like put your hands up and go, I've had enough. And I know I went through the same thing, and I have a lot of clients that are social workers as well. So your daily environment, you're constantly being hammered with all sorts of things on a physical, mental, and emotional capacity as well. And it's so important, as you say, to look at how do we kind of like bring in that little bit of balance, right? And as natural carers in wanting to help people, I found that like even for me, being the hardest is when we start kind of like going, wait a minute, I need to put myself first. Wait a minute, I don't have capacity to continue to support others if I'm at capacity as well. And it's quite interesting how that tends to show up in our lives as well. And I think I've experienced the same thing that you've said, in the sense that with anxiety, it ends up coming up from something else. And we're so used to suppressing things, that we're just like, and then it's like, the straw that breaks the camel's back. It's one little thing, and it just becomes way too much, from what I found in my experience. And my journey is similar to yours in the sense of, what do I do? My physical, my mental, my emotional health has kind of like hit this. What do I do? And a lot of us tend to find Reiki first as well, because it's amazing kind of like modality to really do a little bit of healing. And I found to unclog and start really that self-care and the principles of working. And a lot of the times I also find that once we've been through a traumatic experience or whatever, I mean, everybody has trauma. It's the joys of this planet. It's part of us learning and expanding. And I don't know, maybe you can speak to this. I always think that we'll hold that vibrational frequency of that trauma within us, but then we'll hold the healed vibrational frequency of that trauma, which means that it gives us the opportunity of helping others that have been through similar traumas, within that, because we'll like magnetize to them, which is quite beautiful, in that sense. Do you find that with your clients that you connect with?
I do find that. I think that the people that will come and find you often are the people that they're meant to have, and through my past experiences, I can understand where they're coming from. I've been in their shoes, so it can make it a bit more of a full session, I think, sometimes, and I think it gives you more of a kind of rapport with the person, as I say, it definitely, I think, helps. I mean, I'm quite new into the journey. I mean, I've only had a small business for a year, and see, to be quite honest with you, I wasn't ready for a length of time really for the small business when I started it, but I just did it. I was really challenging myself, constantly doing things right. I need to do this. I want to move forward. I feel uncomfortable. I'm doing it. So I didn't have the self-belief for quite a while. That's only now starting to really come in, and I thought, wait, what else could I do? What else could I do? Because I've got a bit of challenges with not driving and going to events and different things. And I'm saying, right, if I speak, maybe podcasts or different things, and the message I want to get out to say to people, it is possible for changing your life. And you may feel uncomfortable, but you will become more comfortable through time. And it's not to say you'll never have any more challenges in your life or never feel stressed again, but you know how to deal with it and manage it, and it won't go to a high level. So that's really what I want to put out.
Yeah.
I also love, Pamela, that you said, just briefly, you said that when you were introducing your anxiety, you were talking about it being a problem, and you it's like you'd mentally decided, you'd acknowledged that there were problems with your health that you wanted to address.
Yeah.
And it's so simple, right? But I must admit, on my journey, when just as I was getting ready, I'd started my own business as a hobby, and just before I started it properly, like created it in May this year, and left my corporate job, I didn't know what my biggest problem was, and I just felt like it was only just really until the last few weeks that I realized, maybe the last 2 or 3 weeks before I left, that my biggest problem was self-care and self-love, and that I would have just burnt out so fast. Like I'm not sure if I hadn't made that change, or the changes, or at very least acknowledged the problem, then I don't think it would have lasted more than 2 or 3 weeks, which is in just so fast. And when I left, I then saw the size of my challenge. I saw that what I thought was a small and manageable problem was actually really big. And what I did was, I ended up just kind of planning in self-care and like planning in like these are the things that I need to do and explore. And I love, Pamela, you're also describing this journey of exploration, because you know it's not just anxiety you're describing, but with anxiety sometimes it's hard to know where, as Natasha was saying, like where's the cause, like where in my life have I developed this, where does my body feel unsafe, what is it that I'm scared about that is, you know, that is going to happen. And yeah, I found that I one of the first things I did was drove off and went on a little vision quest, I called it, for a few days, and I went camping near where I in the little towns that I grew up in, and visited, you know, that version of me before I went to, even before I went to primary school, and started to see some of the challenges that I faced even then, about like hiding myself and,
Yeah.
you know, being scared of the world, and like just going, I just want to be like in the shoebox with everyone else, and I think I'm safe there. And yeah, I love your journey of exploration, because it's so powerful as well. Like we never really know what's going to make us happy, which is part of happiness, right? It's like it's the journey of exploration to try the different things. So well done for the exploration. What led you to the different modalities that you've started exploring and continue to explore?
I've actually got a family member that has did Reiki for years, and they'd said to me in the past, no, no, because they're a Reiki master, did I want to learn it? And at that point, I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I have realised that fear has held me back from a lot of things in life. And I think I'm quite a highly sensitive person. So I think I've always been a bit aware of energy, but I had a bit of a fear of energy, I think, really.
Yeah.
Thinking, oh, is it, you know, bad things or whatever. So I just came to a point where I said, I'll give it a try, you know, just challenge yourself, give it a try, see how it goes. And I actually also had tinnitus as well, more when I hit the menopause, with anxiety as well, quite bad tinnitus and things like that. And that gave a fear of, oh, is it going to make the tinnitus worse, whatever. But I just went with it. I can still occasionally get a bit of tinnitus, but it's more, I think, you know, just your energy's quite high. But I don't know what to react to that now, so that just comes down naturally, and it's fine. It's learning not to have a fear of fear, basically, and realising that everybody, I think I used to compare myself to others and say, they've got it all figured out, look at them, they're so confident, but everybody has their points where they're not unsure, everybody has something they're frightened of, nobody's confident all the time, nobody's happy all the time, and it's coming to that realisation that you become a lot more settled in yourself, I think, and as you start to build your confidence and your self-belief, and as you said, the self-love, which is not an easy thing. I'd always wanted to be in the background like yourself. I'd always wanted, oh no, I don't want attention on me. But I think underneath, I did really want it, but I just was frightened to put myself forward to it. But now, strangely, at 55 years of age, I now want to be in the limelight, not for the sake of folk going, oh, you're wonderful, just to help other people because of the experience I have of poor mental health.
That's so beautiful. And yeah, thanks for sharing, John, your journey as well. And also realizing that, okay, I am so close to burnout right now that, yeah, a lot of the times we don't actually realize where we're at. And yeah, I got to a stage where it's like, if I don't quit now and do something about this, you can totally foresee something. You could feel your body kind of like in those stresses. And yeah, no, I commend you, Pamela, for like at any age. And I think we get settled into, you know, the comfort, and that's been coming up a lot, that comfort versus progression, which is why I feel your message is so important right now, that aspect of change, not only on a micro level where like to embrace that change, but also there's a lot of change happening in the world right now. And we're holding on to a lot of kind of like different systems that work, and it is a time of change, which is absolutely stunning. So I love your message and encouraging people to shift into, I usually say, their highest potential or the best versions of themselves, and feeling the fear and doing it anyway is important. And that's exactly, I think, what all three of us have done. We felt the fear and did it anyway. And a lot of the times when I'm in the Akashic records, they say to people that are wanting to change, that are wanting to push forward in life, is get used to being uncomfortable, because that's where you need to be, right? Is in that space of uncomfort, so that we can expand our our barriers, or and it's so funny, because it's all about putting up boundaries, but then stretching others that we've put in place to keep us safe, that aren't serving us anymore as well. And I find that a lot with anxiety, is that it's pushing through that fear. Otherwise, our world becomes smaller and smaller. And it becomes so hard as kind of like a parent or a carer when our children are going through it, in a sense of and I felt it as well. It's like, where do I push my child out of this, you've got this, you can do this anyway. And it's such a fine line to permanently kind of traumatizing them, or am I traumatizing them, or am I pushing them past this barrier of anxiety, which is so interesting. How have you worked with that in a sense of physically, mentally, emotionally, in pushing yourself past that fear of stepping into something different?
I've just learned a lot. I mean, I also worked with a life coach for 6 months, and he loved it, because he said not a lot of people want to totally change their life. You want to totally change your life. And he used NLP, so that's what gave me the interest in NLP. So I just learned a lot about the brain, about the workings of the brain, about the subconscious, how that's going to want to protect you, you're getting out your memories from the past come in, and you might not be aware of it, and that starts to affect the body. I just learned an awful lot about a lot of different things. Also, I think I've learned some things about people through the care work I do, and I've always been quite interested in people and kind of people watched, observed. But I had a bit of a barrier with myself. It was possibly a fear of going right inside myself and really looking at everything. And I did have challenges. I did have, steps forward and back at times, which is only natural. But I had this, voice inside me saying, keep going, you deserve this. This is what you should be doing. You should be helping others in a different way. Carry on. So I did. And I'm really glad I did. I think it's just about giving yourself knowledge, and the knowledge can empower you and make you want to keep going. And I think you hear others' stories as well, because the life coach I worked with had anxiety in the past as well. So that was a good thing, that you see other people and you realise, well, they've been where I was and they're completely different now. It is possible for change, so that helps you keep going and keep taking steps every day. Patience is one of my things. It's a lot better than it was, but you discover things about yourself. It was something that I wasn't that great at, being patient with myself and wanting to possibly do things too quickly. So I had to learn to just take steps. Some days I did take quick steps, but that was just me. But other times saying, right, come on, just draw back a bit, right, give yourself a bit of time. So I'm learning now, if I feel I need time to draw back a bit, say, right, give yourself a bit of rest. You've done whatever your body's telling you it's a bit tired. Take a bit of rest and then decide what your next step's going to be, rather than just keeping charging all the time. We can't do that. We can't forge forward all the time. So I've learned that, which has been quite valuable.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I love, one of the realizations I feel we're touching on is that there's a lot of people that are very unhappy in the world, and some know it, some don't know it. And there's just a whole spectrum of everything in between. And, I feel that's been part of my journey as well, is discovering what truly makes me happy. And so when we look at things like our mental health, I remember when I first started doing sessions. Now I never learned Reiki, but I started and still haven't. But I started doing my own form of energy healing, and I was learning it on the job by starting with friends and doing Zoom calls every twice a week. And I did that for a couple of years, and it's quite funny because just yesterday I was looking at the video, the first one I ever did in 2021, and it's just so funny seeing that version of me. It's like I don't even know what this thing is. No, like no one could even tell me what it was I was doing, other than the person I was doing it for, and their feedback alone, that they said it felt good, that they enjoyed it, and that they'd recommend that I keep going with it. Um, just kept me going, and it was really interesting because I felt like I was just learning all the time, and in part I was learning about other people, and it was almost like the universe was queuing up all these people that were um, I didn't charge initially, but I still called them clients. So they were like clients that would come to me, and they were often reflections of me. They're like, I've got this problem with my career. And I'm like, me too. And it was so many me too's and still is for so long. It's just the different, challenges I face. And often I've only just realized it. Like I've only like yesterday I figured out how to love myself better, and it's like, and today I've got a client to help you with your self love, and I love that too. Like it feels uncomfortable and feels challenging, but it's still exciting. And I also found so I did overcome a bit of my fear about qualifications, and I did qualify as a mindfulness teacher and completed my clinical reflexology training. And I found, especially in the reflexology, where you do like a consultation form and you ask people about their health conditions, it's incredible how, obviously I wouldn't share individuals' details, but everybody has so many challenges and so many themes like stress and anxiety, problems with digestion, self-love, self-confidence. And you could, you could literally, you could almost like do the kind of fake psychic bit and say, I know you already, and just list all these things, and it would touch so many people's like, ticks at least like four out of five boxes for so many people. Um, and I feel like that's a big part of my mission as well, is like helping people, because I see that they don't all need to leave their careers and go and chase something else, but it feels like people do want change, and that they do want to find happiness and create together a world where we're not just running around in circles together. And I was interested in you said, Pamela, you've been started for a year. How's that first year been in your small business? It's a big thing, right? Starting your own business.
I found parts of it quite challenging, really, but that was just obviously because it was all new, and it's coming quite well, but I think it's still a bit more confidence for me to build in that area. Setting the different things up. I'm not very tech savvy. I didn't know anything about business at all, but I did get a bit of help to learn a bit of the basics, and I think you just kind of learn as you go along. I think it's very rewarding helping other people, and obviously I've done a care work job for years, but to do it in a different way, the people I work with can't necessarily give you feedback, in anything. So to work with people that can give you a feedback and how they felt, and is a life changing in any way, I think that just gives you, a massive boost that what you're doing is right. And I definitely think there's more for me to do. I feel for me that the direction's not totally clear yet that I'm going in, and I would still continue Reiki EFT, but I think there is definitely more for me, but I'm quite happy to just be guided as I go along with that. You mentioned yourself, the mindfulness, and I fell away a bit probably from mindfulness, not an actual practice of mindfulness, not that I wouldn't be mindful, but the actual practice of mindfulness. But I found that very helpful years ago for the anxiety, to slow the brain down. I found that a very powerful thing. As I say, to me, because of the kind of for the goodwill, the kind of but a lack of self-belief in things, things weren't aligning, things are just starting to align, because the universe isn't going to bring it in until you're in the right place to receive. So I still had some more work to do on myself before that starts to come in properly. So this is just kind of early stages for me. I'd recently got a new website set up and things, so it's quite exciting, quite an exciting time.
I'm so excited for you. I commend you, and I wish you all the success and calling forward all the people that you're here to support. It's absolutely wonderful. And yeah, I think that feedback is so important when we first start, because a lot of the stuff that is done is energetic and it's not tangible, and it's sometimes very, very subtle and sometimes not so subtle. But and I find that was one of the hardest things for me, is moving from a very corporate way of doing things to the more spiritual way. It was kind of like, okay, I've meditated, I've been clearing my chakras for the last like 3-4 weeks. I'm like, action, where's the result? And you tend to want it to be like something will show up like physical, and sometimes it does, but and I'm still playing with that and kind of like manifesting into like the physical, like tangibly. But that feedback and I suppose it takes a level of trust, because he gets to a stage, because a lot of this is not regulated, it's not tangible. We do doubt ourselves very much in the beginning. At least I did, as well. And even up to 2 years later, even after we've seen results, even after people have said that, no, this is amazing. And even after working on ourselves, we see our own results. There's still that little bit of kind of like, is this for real? Until you eventually start to completely trust that. I battled with that at the beginning, in that sense of kind of like, is there something wrong with me in half of the stuff that I'm seeing, feeling, understanding? Is this for real? And really kind of like trusting in the work. And one thing that I found is the more you trust, the more you get, the more confidence people have, the more faith they have. It's also based on a lot of the belief systems as well. And yeah, I think when I went through this, it was very much, I took the onus of the results upon myself as well, which was quite interesting. And the reason I'm saying this is because sometimes we take on responsibility for others' healing as well, or others' reactions. And then it's kind of like, no, you can only take the person as far as they're willing to go. And the reason I'm saying this on a greater message is it's beautiful that we take responsibility and go, hang on a minute, this isn't working for me anymore. Like, what I've been doing hasn't worked for me. I do need to change. I do need to love myself more. And a lot of the times in that aspect of loving ourselves more, self-care is seen as selfish. So it's almost like, how do we balance that, where we stop seeing it as a selfish act and seeing it as a necessity act in order to be better people for ourselves and for the people around us, and people we work with, and clients, suppliers, all of that. And it's switching that mindset, I think, that we've been so conditioned to, and it's taking that leap, that jumping through that barrier, I found, of going, no, this is actually an absolute necessity right now. Yeah, that rambling is really about, I think if we want to change the world, we've got to start with us, and trying to find and look at what is it that we need, and looking for outside supports. That's the other thing as well, is realizing that we don't have to do it alone. And we've got others that are on this journey, or have been on this journey, or have different talents. And we were talking about this before we jumped on here. It's like, try different modalities, see what works for you. There's not one thing that's a fix for everything, that we were talking about. And I think that's absolutely wonderful, in continuing to learn and to expand. And the journey, I don't think the journey's ever done, because then there's that next thing that you're like, oh my God, sounds like amazing, I've got to try this. I always say, like, I'll try anything at least once. Well, almost anything at least once. So it's one of those things. And Yeah, no, it's beautiful that you've brought in quite a few lovely modalities that connect on a physical, mental, and emotional perspective as well. Um, and yeah, I found that working with my mind was the first place to start when I worked through that as well. So that NLP, working with a life coach was so important. I read two books at the same time. Well, I listened to two books at the same time that really helped me, which was The Wisdom of the Cell by Bruce Lipton, which helped me to understand. And I read Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself with Dr. Joe Dispenza. And he explained how we're so programmed on automatic and moving forward in a certain way, and it's trying to trick your mind, to trick your body into to healing as well. So beautiful that you had a life coach with you as well to work through that. And I think life coaches are going to be a must moving forward in businesses, in home. Like, I think everybody's going to have a life coach in the future. I definitely see a future like that.
Well, like life coaches have life coaches, because my life
Yeah.
coach had a life coach to keep him in track, which I thought
Yeah.
was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also wanted to mention the creative side. I thought was
Yeah.
important. I had been neglecting my creative side as well. I discovered I do like writing, and I did a couple of beginners creative writing courses and started doing bits of poetry again and doing a journal, and I found that really, really helpful as well. That side of me I was neglecting too, and I don't think that's good for your brain or your well-being. So that's
Absolutely.
something that I've got as one of my things that I keep doing on a regular basis. I'm not a drawer, you don't get me doing a painting or anything, I'm actually my baby, but writing's where I like to do my creative bit.
Beautiful.
And I'd love on the theme of creativity and self love. I would love to ask your advice, Pamela, because I I knew my biggest challenge when I left my corporate job and started my business was self care, and so I started to explore some things. I got a skateboard. I hadn't done that in about 37 years, and and it's great fun. And I take it walking the dog, and I get really funny looks, and I love that. In some respects, the funny looks make me enjoy it even more. Um, and I also I realized that people have been telling me this, and I'm like, I'm not so sure it's going to be a problem for me, like kind of denying it. But it was this challenge of boundaries in like that I like accepting that I am my business, and that the two are intertwined, and that I'm a company of one, and that the company needs. I remember my son saying, "When are your closing hours, Dad?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sure." And I said, "Well, there's like limited times that you can book me on my website." And he said, "I know, but you always have a phone in your hand." It's like always have my phone in my hand. Um, and so I started only quite recently deciding that I needed to explore different ways of resting. Um, one thing I love napping. So yesterday I took a 2 hour nap at lunch. I didn't feel amazing. I knew today I've got like a really long day today, and so I created space yesterday, and it felt really good. And it felt amazing. And then also tomorrow as well. Like so, I've planned breaks in my calendar. And then the other thing I learned is that I actually get quite agitated and sometimes anxious sat for too long on the sofa watching TV, a movie or whatever. Like my body wants to be doing something, but not work. And so I've got this other hobby, which is I have a camper van, and I love doing electric upgrades to it, to the anything to do with batteries and solar and that kind of thing. So yesterday I sat for 2 hours. As normally I'd just be relaxing on the sofa, but I just sat and I was creating these little connectors. I had to do six. They took quite a long time to do each one, and then I hooked it all up at the end. And I just remember reflecting when it hit about 9 o'clock. I should be in bed by then, John. And I just thought I'll just see if it works because I could test it in the home, and I didn't have any kind of completion mentality. I was just like, just let it go. If it doesn't work, it's fine. I'll just put it back in the bag, put it in the garage, and the next time I want to be playing with wires, I can do it safely then. It did work, and in some respects, I was quite annoyed. I was like, oh, I wonder what other hobbies I'll find. But I was really interested in your journey, Pamela, and how you've help balance your work life as you're creating your own business, and how you create your own boundaries?
Well, I'm actually only part-time. I've never been back full-time when my daughter was young, but I had a sense that I didn't want to do the job full-time, and I didn't have to financially, so I didn't go back full-time. I've learned, I suppose fairly recently, I would say, to set boundaries, and it was more, I'd say, with my family was more the thing with me to set boundaries, because I had the thing that, and obviously, we're all brought up differently, whatever, some of your values instilled when you're quite young. And my mother's quite a selfless person, so I thought, well, I should, really be, always giving. But I came to realise that, right, I have to, if I feel that I don't want to do something's not right for me, or I need a bit of time, I just have to say, right, I'm going to do. I used to think, well, that's selfish, I can't do that. I can't say that I'm going to go out somewhere, or I'm going to do something else, or to do with work, I'm going to block off a bit of time. But now I do that, and I realise that's something you have to do. You can't constantly be switched on. That isn't good for your self-care, for you getting decent sleep. You've got to set boundaries. I think that's quite important. And I found with my family that was quite important when I realised that I was just giving too much, being a mother, being a wife, and not thinking so much of myself as a person. So that's what I've started to change. And people do respond. I think you just stand in your power, and you just say, right, X, Y, Z, and people, right, okay, and that they get used to it. They might not right away, but they get used to it. But I don't mind now if somebody's not comfortable with something I'm saying. If I know it's right for me, it's right. And I'll go by my gut a lot, what I feel in my heart. Whereas before, I'm a head-based person, but sometimes now I'll come out of that head and I'll go into what feels right to me, and not just what's right logically. I find that important.
It's so brave to ask for that. And so, yeah, absolutely. It's setting those boundaries, because we worry about backlash as well, right? Which is important. Yeah, I've been going through a little bit of that right now as well. So it's kind of like, and I've got a Portuguese background, so there's a lot of family that comes with that, right? And a lot of expectation. And it's so interesting, because I found a lot of that, how your mom's like very, very giving. I found that within mine, it's like it's intergenerational. Right, it's these habits that we've taken on from generation to generation, and I think, yeah, it makes it hard, because it's part of us, right? So it's that making that change and being uncomfortable and doing it anyway. And I love how you say, no, just stand in my power and that's it. I'm just like stepping into that, and yeah, well done you. That's awesome. It's inspiring.
And congratulations on being part-time. Like, that is so cool. I was 2 years part-time in my corporate job. And although I had I would describe it as an anxiety roller coaster, where it's like, Friday was like, yay, I felt good. And then I was 4 days off. And then it's like this just gradually ramped up my anxiety. And then I had 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, of like 30 to 40 hours in 3 days, was just insane. But what I did love was the Friday mornings in particular. And my kids, well, my daughter's just left school, but the family was out on a Friday morning. And I remember thinking, it's a magical time, Friday mornings. I want that magical time. And I did work since then, the last 2 months. I have worked some Fridays, and it's like, actually, I'm taking my Fridays back. And so now they're like blocked out. And it's household chores and the things that some skateboarding and some time with the dog and in the garden. And yeah, it's really funny how we might, it's easy to describe being part-time as being somehow a negative thing, but in the work that, we have a lot of similarities and themes in the work that all three of us do. But there's something about our work that we don't fully understand, and that's kind of amplification effect, right? You help one if you only helped one person each week, like you're describing your journey, Pamela, where your coach was like, yes, someone hungry to change. If you just imagine just being able to change just one person's life each week, or over 6 months, you saw them and you helped them change their life. You feel that it's not just that one person, like, our traditional Western culture products, you tend to just consume it and throw it away, like whatever it was, it would be done. Whereas for the work you're doing, it has this massive effect, even just for that one person, because their life hopefully never goes back to the way it was. They continue to explore the change and the changes that fill them with that happiness. So yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you on the part-time aspect. And yeah, I love like standing in your power. I've been doing that as well. Like just been saying, I have had three 1-week holidays in 3 months, which has been phenomenal. But sometimes it's like, well, if I'm going to generate some more cash, then there's just the balance, and I love the balance that the holidays bring. But it's also that balance of like not racing towards a holiday, like going on holidays so that you feel relaxed when you're there, not just like, I've got so much to do.
Yeah, I like going on holidays. Well, I think that's an important part of my self-care, and I've been away a few places. Had a family wedding in Ireland as well, so it's been quite quite a busy year, but it's been great, and I think getting away is very important, to just change your surroundings sometimes, even if you were just going, as you say, camping or going a short ride to the coast, because a few of the times I'm going away, I'm just going to go away for a couple of days, but just to the coast, quite near me, just a short drive, but it's still a change of scenery, and it just helps you to relax and recharge. I think to come back refreshed, to carry on with what you're doing. I think if you never took a break, you would just get burnt out, and then you wouldn't be able to help people.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. What has been your biggest surprise on this journey since you started this?
My biggest surprise has been some of the things I've learned about myself. I learned that I found it hard to trust, which I never knew. I always thought I was a very open person, and I just didn't realise, but I realised that I actually had a bit of a trust issue, that I would maybe come over to people as being a bit standoffish, but it was just I was trying to cover what was inside. I used to internalise a lot of stuff, so I feel that's a lot of the reason why a few times I had poor mental health, because I would internalise what I was feeling. I wouldn't discuss it, even with my family. So that's something that quite surprised me. I thought I was really. Then I went, oh, wait a minute, and then I kind of started thinking back, and I said, oh right, I think I understand this. So look at all these things, and that is starting to definitely change. But it was something that a few things I've never realised about myself. I've went deep, and then I've been quite surprised with some of the things that's come up. I didn't think that, because there was actually a lot of anger inside me, which I didn't realise as well. Which was quite interesting, so no wonder, I was the way I was. But once you start to look into things, and it's to realise that none of us are perfect. We're all going to have things we could work on and improve on, but we can never have everything 100%. That's just not going to happen. And it's about accept. I think about the big thing about me was accepting me as being me and nobody else, and not thinking I want to be like them, look, their life's all sorted out, because nobody's their life all sorted out. So that was one of the biggest realisations, I think, changed things for me. And just to know that I'm good enough as I am, and so is everybody else. I'm no better than anybody else, but I'm no less than anybody else. I think I used to think of myself as being lacking, and that was part of the problem. But now I'm like that. No, come on, just you do what you're doing fine.
Sounds like sound advice. Love that.
Yeah.
Love those surprises, right? That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm going to ask a question in a minute, but I was just going to share that one thing about that gap in myself. Like I wondered what I was lacking. I one of my fear, and I think this is maybe a very very stereotypical male thing, was like how will the rest of society see me when I step out of being like a senior manager in a global company to being a guy that does energy healing and mindfulness and reflexology? And it was really funny because I just remember one of the things that went through my mind is like, hey, maybe I should like properly dress like hippie John, you know, and it's like, well, what does hippie John wear? And it's like, what does John wear that runs his own business? He just wears what he wants. And there's this whole internal conversation. Then eventually, I just remember like in the first few days after I left, my job was almost this shock that nothing changed. I was exactly the same person I had been the day before, but I'd changed my life. And people's reaction to me, if anything, they were really curious. They're like, what are you doing? What is the thing you do? And not I thought I'd be judged a lot more, and I thought people would look down at me more. But what it seems to do what I really surprised me is when I started following my dreams, it didn't matter if my dream was the same as others. They would say, what's it like following your dream? And I would say most people didn't really want to know what it was I was doing exactly, but they wanted to know how my life had changed, why I was doing it. And that, yeah, if anything, I feel much more prouder of myself as I walk around in the streets and meet people and introduce myself. Like our new neighbors turned up and I said, oh yeah, no, I also do like music. You might hear that sometimes, and a lot of psychic work. And usually I would be like so scared of saying some of these trigger words previously to me. And now it feels much more just me. And I am many, many things. Before I was one easy label. And sometimes when I'm feeling a little bit lazy, I'll still introduce myself as I was this, because they're like, oh yeah, I put you in that little box. But yeah, I was going to ask you, Pamela, about both your experience of that, moving from something that was easier to explain to your new self.
Well, it's been quite interesting for me because even in my workplace, there was some people didn't know I had problems with mental health because I used to think I can't discuss it, you can't disclose that, you're somehow seen as being no lacking. Or I think that was a problem for me for a long time, thinking that, oh, I've been weak in some way, having poor mental health, a few times over the years. But then I became to realise I think it's actually a strength because I can use that to help others, and it's actually gave me a lot of insight that others maybe don't have unless they've experienced it. So I think I think people were curious, but I'm finding it might be to do with the place I work in. But it's some people that just don't say anything to you. It's as if at the back of their mind they've got, oh, I know you're doing this thing now, because I'm obviously been quite open about it. I've started the part-time business. I'm not hiding it and not hiding what I'm doing. But they're kind of like looking at you as if to say, are you different? Do you look different? Are you different? There is a few people that have discussed and asked how you found it. And a few people have commented that they've saw a change in me since I've started a small business. They said, oh, I think you're different. You seem more open and, more confident in yourself, more happy in yourself, settled. And I've said yes, I have. I mean, there's a few people from my workplace that have actually came for treatments as well, and they've found it beneficial, which has been good, because I think the job I do, there can be quite a lot of stress, and it can be quite helpful for people to get the benefit of that. But I think it's been curiosity more than anything, and I think people think, is this the same? Of course, you're the same person. It's just that you're doing something a bit different. To some people, I think they think it's a bit strange, because obviously, some people view Reiki as just like, as if you're a psychic, which it isn't. It's a different thing. Because I had somebody asking me, could you give me a message? And I said, I'm sorry, I can't give you a message. It's not to do with that. And I had to kind of explain what it was.
Mm-hmm.
But that's been good for me, to just put everything all out there. Now everything's out in the open about my life, and people can judge it if they want. They can say, well, that's good, give them inspiration. They can take it the way they find. I'm finding now that I don't really care about the stage where I think, this is me, you'll take me as you find me, or you won't take me. and I know that this is the right journey I'm on, and this is where I think I was meant to be a long time ago, but I didn't have the courage to do it. But now I do. So I would say to MD, go for it. If you feel you want to do anything in life, don't let fear hold you back.
You said you weren't psychic, and then you answered the question I was going to ask you, which was, what advice do you have for those thinking of changing their lives? Go for it.
Well, I would say to people not to let fear hold them back, as I've already said, and to not be frightened to look into themselves, to try and go into yourself, to find out about you as a person, who you are, what your inner thoughts are, what your inner feelings are. And sometimes I think going back to your childhood and things is necessary to fully heal from whatever it is you're wanting to heal from. And obviously not everybody will want to do that, and that's fine. You can do treatments, all different modalities for relaxation. But for me, to totally change things, I had to go very deep inside and learn a lot of things about myself that I didn't know, and did work around that through like meditation, journaling, just reasoning things out, in my head. And that's what really made the difference for me to change my life. And obviously it'll be different, and what everybody will want is different. People do what's right for them. I'm not telling people, oh, you must go way back to childhood. Not everybody will want to do that, and that's fine. But it's about finding things that's going to help you relax in your life and make you happy. And if you're not doing something through fear, I would say, I did that for years and it didn't help me any. So I would say try and go for it. Discuss it with somebody, get support from somebody if you feel you need it to help you achieve that.
Beautiful.
Fabulous.
A lot of the times we hold back, so that's a beautiful message, because we make it mean something about us, right? That we reaching out for help. And yeah, no, I love that message. Thanks, Pamela.
Fabulous. Well, I'll go into meditation shortly, but before I do, Pamela, I'd love to ask, because once we do the meditation, we'll feel a bit sleepy, especially with my voice, and including our audience. But yeah, I'd love to ask, how do people connect with you and your incredible work?
They can connect with me through my website. I have the business is called Serenity and Calm, and I have a website. I'm also on Facebook, Instagram. I've actually started doing short videos to challenge myself on YouTube, and that's just at the early stages. I mean, I think the longest I've managed is 7 minutes so far, but that's something I'm trying to do as well, to develop, because I never even used to like getting my photograph taken, never did anything else. So people can connect with me on there.
Oh, fabulous! I'll make sure I get those off you and include them in the video for YouTube, and hopefully they'll make it into the podcasts that we distribute out to as well. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing, and yeah, thank you so much for coming on today's podcast. I'll get us started on a mindfulness meditation, and I hope that it helps everyone that's listening. So if you'd like to join me for a few moments, start by taking a deep breath in through the nose and breathe out nice and loud what no longer serves our highest good. Breathe in through the nose nice and deep. And breathe out any low vibration, energy, or emotions at this time nice and loud. And once more, breathe in through the nose nice and deep. And breathe out any fear, shame, anxiety, or stress at this time nice and loud. And you can continue to breathe as deeply and as calmly as it feels right for you. And I invite us all to just feel into our hearts for a moment. You can choose to place your hand on your chest if you wish, or just to bring your focus to your chest area and your heart. And to ask the question to our bodies, to every aspect of us, how do I feel right now? And as we ask these questions, just allow your body to answer, perhaps like a small voice in your heart. And we ask ourselves, am I truly happy at this time? Just allow the answer to come through to you, whether it's a physical sensation, a quiet voice, or however it sounds in and around you. And we'll ask one more question. How can I show myself today that I love myself more and more each day? And now bring your attention out to the rest of your body, all the way up to the top of your head. And then all the way down your body, down your arms, out to your fingertips. And all the way out, down to the base of your spine, out down your legs, to the tip of your toes. Just increasing our awareness about how we're feeling. And feel yourself held wherever you are right now, sitting or lying down. And I'd like you to imagine, if you're not at home, imagine that you are at your home at this time, the place you call home. And I'd like you to take a look at yourself, at the room that you're in, and also take a little look outside the window if there is one. And if there's not, just imagine outside. And between these three areas of your body, your room, and outside, what do you feel about these aspects of yourself? How you feel about your self-love and your body? How you feel about the room in your home? How you feel about outside? Does it feel sunny and warm? Does it feel inviting? Do you feel safe inside of yourself? And now within the home that you're in, at very least mentally, I'd like you to join me on a little mental walk as we mindfully walk through your home. And we're going to the room that has the most clutter. It might be your attic. It might be a spare room. It might be your garage if you have one, or a basement, or even a shed outside, wherever it is, wherever you hide all of those parts of the clutter that you just want to ignore and you're leaving it for a rainy day to address. I'd like you to walk with me to that place just now. And when you get to it, and before you open the door to it, I'd like you to just take a moment and fill your own heart with the self-love, all the self-love that you can build up inside your heart at this time. And now, perhaps before you open the door to all this clutter, I would like you to just send in lots of love into that room where you keep that clutter, into that space. And I'd like you to know that before you open it, that it is often much less worse than we realize. There's often a lot less clutter than we realize. And that this room that we're going to is also a reflection of us, of the inside of us. For our homes are very much reflections of how we feel inside. So just come to this door and open it up, wherever it is, and just cast your eyes across any of the clutter that you've been building up. And I'd like you to share this message with that clutter and with yourself, is that I love you. I love the whole of you. Even all this clutter I love because it's part of me. And I'm willing to change. I'm ready to change. I'm ready to clear this clutter and see what's inside. I'm ready to clear the clutter from within my home and within myself. And as I clear, as I imagine myself now clearing that clutter, seeing and visualizing myself, perhaps some goes to recycling or waste, some goes to charities or giving it away, some may be burned, or however you decide to deal with your clutter. That within this, there are likely some golden nuggets of truth that will surprise you, some things you didn't realize you belong, that you own, or perhaps parts of you that have been neglected. There might often be parts of our past that we've been trying to ignore. This is the clutter outside of us and also the clutter within us. And I'd like you to imagine within that clutter, in that room, in that space, that at the very center, there is one of your favorite childhood toys. And when you're ready, you can join me in reaching in and picking up magically that toy without disturbing any of the clutter. And I'd like you to pick it up and hold it against your heart. And now walk with me outside, outside to your garden, or if you don't have a garden, a nearby place in nature that feels beautiful and safe to you. And before we conclude our meditation, I would like to ask ourselves the question, what can we do? What can we change in our lives? What can we declutter? What can we address that will help us change our lives for the better, to really show ourselves that we love ourselves more and more each day? And as you allow that answer to come into your heart, perhaps you'd even like to play a little bit with the toy that you brought outside. Perhaps there's a message in this toy itself, that there's play ahead of you as part of your changes in your lives that you wish to make. And that play was so important to you as a child, and even more so now as adults, when we often get less time to play. You're going to make time. Time for all the things that make you happy, with all the people that you want to be happy with. And as you look out across this garden or place in nature, just connect the planet, connect with your body, and allow yourself to dream and explore the different things you would like to do in your life, in your career, in your life journey, and allow yourself to play in those moments. and to feel that joy. And you can hold this joy for as long as you wish and come back to this meditation whenever you wish. And for now, I'd like to bring us back to our bodies, back to our hearts, back to where we started, the start of this meditation, and just to know that we can always revisit this place, this feeling. We can always check with our bodies how we're feeling. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes once more, take a deep breath, perhaps move your body a bit. If you're still awake after my voice hasn't sent you to sleep. I send myself to sleep.
It's a superpower. That's awesome.
That's right, yeah. Oh, well, thank you, Pamela. And thank you,
so
Natasha.
much. Thank you,
Thank you
Pamela.
very
It was
much.
really lovely to hear about your journey, and yeah, it's inspirational. You keep going, you keep doing what you're doing.
I will. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Well, yeah, we'll definitely share your contact details and your, including your YouTube channel. I love to follow that. And you should see my walk and talk videos. They're so unedited and raw. But yeah, it would be amazing to share you with the rest of the world. And thank you so much for coming along. And I will end today's podcast recording at that. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.